Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is going to be a very short update. We didn't want to take a lot of time with it, although we do have some really interesting news, and got Larry on board. Larry, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Stuart. Thanks for having me.
Why don't we start with the Middle East? That seems to be kind of a pressure cooker. And with Israel bombing Damascus, or hitting it with a missile, that doesn't sound too good. That has shades of Isaiah chapter 17. What's the latest on that?
Well, that's the most interesting thing, is this just happened suddenly. And, of course, File is reporting, and this is their report, says Israeli warplanes mark go-it-alone policy on Syria. There's reports today of Israeli airstrikes over Damascus. And then there was a backup report on File says Syrian military spokesman confirms Israeli airstrikes on Damascus, says that Israeli missiles had exploded in the area of El-Shabak in Damascus, Syria. So strikingly, and you know, there were scattered reports. It's not in the U.S. news, but it's scattered reports in the internet in the Middle East that Israeli planes actually attacked Damascus itself and bombed and also fired some missiles there. And what's interesting is the fact that that area is covered by Putin's shield, his missile shield, and apparently he allowed that to occur.
So this almost sounds like an orchestrated deal. I don't know what else. I mean, he said that's a no-fly zone. Anybody that goes in there is going to get shot down. So obviously they didn't. So either it's inoperative or, like you say, Putin said, okay, have at it. Who did they go after? Is there any report on who they were actually trying to target?
There were no reports, and of course the Israeli military are not talking on who their target was. We do know from scattered reports over a week or so that some ISIS forces, along with some I guess you could say the Syrian army units had set up in different areas of Damascus, and so it could be either one. I mean, you know, recently there's been some ISIS fighters approach the Golan border and fire on the Israeli troops, and they killed those troops and destroyed the machine gun vehicle that it was, in. But at the same time, we know that ISIS is also infiltrating Gaza and the Gaza Strip and the Sinai. And so it could have been, but, at the same time, I wanted to add, too, Hezbollah has lots of munitions and stacked up in different places. And Israel has been big on going in to take those out because they expect Hezbollah will use them on them. And so we don't know. We don't know the target, but they did actually fire missiles and do some airstrikes in Damascus.
Well, that's probably maybe going to continue with the big one. Okay, the other news you had was Ukraine was going to test fire some missiles, and Putin had a remark to make about that.
Well, what's interesting, and I'll read you two news reports here. Number one, Yahoo News reported today, said Donald Trump and U.S. generals prepare for Washington as Russia hints at war with Ukraine. And then the second report basically is, and I'll add to that Ukraine had notified the U.S. and Russia that they were going to do 2 days of test fires of missiles towards the Black Sea. Now, Putin has threatened to shoot down any missiles that are test fired by Ukraine. of course, Kyiv is claiming that the missiles will be fired only towards the Black Sea, but yet Russia says they may shoot down any missiles fired out of Ukraine at all.
Well, I guess I wouldn't blame them, because how do you know where? It's kind of like North Korea. They can lob a missile somewhere that people didn't expect, and get a little late when you find out it was targeted that way. That's kind of interesting. Now, this business with Trump and the military is police and his law and order and whatnot. You had a vision of a coup. Can you go into that shortly before we run out? What you saw and how that worked?
That was quite a few years, probably 7 years ago. It was after Obama was already in office, and, I had a very interesting dream about a coup that occurred or was about to occur. And actually, in this dream, I saw someone gaining access through secret passages into the White House to bring a coup of some kind, and there was a big shakeup going on. And it seems that Obama had prior knowledge of this coup, and the coup failed. And now, I can't connect that with anything going on today particularly, but 7 years ago or so when I had this dream, it was so unexpectedly that I thought maybe that might play out a number of times before now, but I don't know. In the dream, though, Obama had foreknowledge of the coup.
So the coup did not work.
Well, the coup in the dream seemed to be carried out to a certain degree, but he had foreknowledge, so he was protected.
Okay. Now, the reason I bring this up is, if Obama were to divide Israel, if Obama were to attempt to declare martial law, if Obama were to try some sort of false flag, is it possible that our military might attempt such a thing and stop it? I mean, after all, they've got, 30, 40 things that they could actually nail Obama for impeachment. They haven't done anything, obviously, because we've got a crooked State Department, we've got a crooked Justice Department, obviously a very, very, compromised FBI, which would then fall basically to the military if anything like that were ever to occur. Could it occur, do you think? I mean, is it in the realm of possibility, or are we looking at a Hollywood script?
Oh, I think, we would like to think of ourselves as above all that. But from what I see, Stuart, Obama has brought this nation to banana republic status anyway. We have a completely lawless government that will not, go after the lawbreakers in their own government, no matter. And so, in a situation like that, you could see if a few generals got together, matter of fact, I remember movies over the years, a few movies came out about a possible, coup by the military. So I don't know. I mean, it could happen anywhere, I suppose.
7 Days in May or something like that. There was a movie. I think that was about a coup.
Yeah. That was
okay,
a classic.
I got another question for you because, all right, we're talking about a coup. Obama and one of his, I can't call it a rant, but one of his deals that he does from time to time in front of press conferences and whatnot. On one of them, he said, "The end of the republic never looked better." Now, people should look up the word republic if they don't know what that means. But then he made a comment about a red wedding. And he even went and borrowed from the lines of a red wedding. And I would advise everyone to go on Google and type in red wedding to find out what that actually does mean. Because he's been making all these comments about he's not going to leave office. and he prevented why he would do the red wedding routine. It was the way I understand what he said. You know, if you go on and look at some of the movie scripts from that, it's pretty bad. It's about I don't know if you could call it a coup attempt or something of that nature, where one side wins most of it and the other side loses horribly. And you could refer that back over to Jade Helm, FEMA camps, Homeland Security, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the only reason I bring it up, is because there seems to be a lot of military involved in this transition team. Have you heard any more about that?
Oh, yeah, that's quite a bit of military involvement in that, and on the general level, by the way. And by also, Stuart, the Game of Thrones, I do know or have personal knowledge that he loves that movie, The Game of Thrones, which is about the throne over the world, and and he likes the Red Witches that are involved inside the Game of Thrones. Very interesting.
Oh, well, I think anybody that's really a thinking person has got to realize that we are in a huge battle. And are the communists, Marxists, and Fabian socialists and the globalists going to win? If they do, America's done for. Well, we know America's done for anyway. We just don't know exactly when. And it just makes me wonder, because of all the comments he's made. I'm going to go through all those speeches he's made and kind of try and list them. I brought it up tonight simply because of your vision. Those comments and what, we've heard rumors of a military not being too happy with Obama as it is. And, of course, he's fired I don't know how many generals and lesser officials out of the, officers out of the military. They can't all be very happy, and many of them are constitutionalists, and they want the Constitution enforced. I mean, I think we're in a very dangerous period of time right now, very dangerous period of time. What's your take?
Well, I think you're exactly right, Stuart, and the interesting thing is a lot of these generals, they're very supportive of the Constitution and the constitutional authority of throwing off tyranny.
Yes. Well, I guess we're going to find out soon enough. And here's an article. I'm just going to. It's very brief. Sunburns are flooding hospitals. They've been estimating over the last 2 to 3 years. Somebody did some research on sunburns. Some of them are pretty hideous, and they found out that I guess the neutrino count, it's a high level of neutrinos, and gamma rays is increasing. And so the people going out into the sun, you better be careful. It's the only reason I bring it up, because you might not know that that's what's going on. And, the rays of the sun are changing. How do people reach you, Larry? Because this is a very short update, so...
Yeah, and that's neutrinos are very important in the movie 2012, and you can go to my blog, LarryWTaylor.org.
You got a point. What that was about the Earth expanding, was it not? If I recall
the neutrinos,
right.
Yeah, the sun caused the neutrinos within the Earth to cause the Earth to expand.
Well, it seems kind of odd that that's what's going on. and of course, we do know about Earth expansion. Well, thanks a lot for coming on, Larry, for a short update. And we'll see everybody Friday night for a much longer discussion on a lot of this. So anyway, good evening, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you Friday.